What's up, everyone? We are back at it today, and we're talking about something that you never really think about needing until you're standing in a cold parking lot with a dead engine and a schedule that's already falling apart. That's when a jump starter stops being a gadget and starts being a lifesaver. Now, we've been running the Gooloo GT6000 for a good while now. We actually shifted our primary jump starter over to the overland rig and started using this GT6000 on our daily driver to see how it holds up to the long-term grind. Gooloo has been making some noise in the market, claiming this is one of the most powerful portable units you can get your hands on, but after months of real-world testing, we found that the on-paper specs and the in-the-trunk reality don't always align. Today, we're going to break down the build quality, the actual jumpstart numbers we're seeing in the field, and whether this unit still holds the crown for the average driver. We'll put the links below so you can check out the different bundle options, because there are a few. But for now, let's get into the breakdown. Subscribe if you haven't already, and let's begin. Let's start with the first impression and the unboxing experience because it sets the tone for the whole tool. The packaging is pretty straightforward, nothing fancy here. Gooloo basically cramps everything into the box, and while it's functional, the materials don't exactly scream premium. You get the main unit, a small carrying bag, a USB-A to USB-C cable, a C to C cable, and a DC adapter. The clamps themselves feel tight and stable, and the wiring seems durable enough to handle the high amperage surges without melting, which is the bare minimum we expect. Now, one thing to note is that the base pack we've been using doesn't include their quick-speed 100-watt charger. Gooloo does offer different combos, one with an OBD scanner, one with a hard-shell EVA case, and one with the 100-watt brick. And honestly, if you're buying this, you'll want to look at those combos because they usually offer better value for the money than buying the pieces separately later. Moving on to the design and build, the GT6000 is surprisingly compact for the power it's supposed to kick out. A lot of the units we test these days are becoming multi-tools with built-in tire inflators, but Gooloo skipped that here. By focusing strictly on the jump starting and power bank side of things, they managed to keep the footprint small enough to tuck under a seat or in a side cubby. The standout feature on the chassis is the 3.2-inch Smart View display. It shows you your battery level, output wattage, temperature, and jump start status. Having that data right in front of you makes the process a lot less intimidating for someone who isn't used to messing with car batteries. However, we did run into a bit of a critique with the screen. It has this frosted glass finish that looks cool indoors, but the moment the sun hits it at the wrong angle, it becomes a nightmare to read. If you're trying to jumpstart a car at high noon, you're going to be squinting and shielding that screen just to see if you're ready to crank. Now let's talk performance, because this is where the marketing meets the metal. On paper, Gooloo claims this thing can handle up to 12-liter diesel and gasoline engines. That's massive, basically enough to start a small ship or a heavy-duty semi-truck. For your daily driver, a muscle car, or even a built-out off-road rig, it should theoretically never break a sweat. But we need to talk about the 70 jump starts per charge claim. In our experience, those numbers are a bit of a stretch. For our daily drivers, we were getting closer to 10 or 15 jumps before the battery felt depleted, and on our diesel rigs, that number dropped to about 8 to 10. Now, don't get us wrong, 10 jumps is still plenty for an emergency tool, but there is a massive gap between the laboratory claims and what happens when you're actually out in the elements. One feature we absolutely have to praise, though, is the cold start preheating. If you've ever tried to jump a car in sub-zero temperatures, you know that batteries hate the cold. The GT6000 actually warms itself up internally before it delivers the peak power to your car. It takes the burden out of winter mornings and adds a huge layer of reassurance when you're out camping or living in colder climates. To keep you from frying your car's ECU, they've integrated a 10-layer safety system. We've all made that silly mistake of fumbling the clamps in the dark, and having that protection baked in means you won't end up with a very expensive repair bill just because your hand slipped. When you're not starting cars, the GT6000 acts as a massive 27,000 mAh power bank. In our testing, that's enough to get about 6 or 7 full charges for an iPhone, depending on which model you're rocking. It's incredibly handy for keeping laptops and cameras topped up while we're on a shoot. The 100-watt USB-C port is a great inclusion for modern laptops, but there is a catch. If you start plugging in multiple devices at once, the charging speeds hit a massive bottleneck. Also, keep an eye on that recharge time. Gooloo says it can top itself up in less than 90 minutes, but that only happens if you're using a 100-watt wall adapter. We used our standard 65-watt laptop brick, and it took closer to 3 hours to reach 100%. It's not a deal breaker, but you need to manage your expectations if you're not using their specific high-speed charger. If we're looking at the port selection, it's a bit of a mixed bag. You get 2 USB-A ports, 1 USB-C, and a DC output. Honestly, we're in 2026. We really don't need 2 USB-A ports anymore. We'd much rather see dual USB-C ports to match the gear most of us are actually carrying. The port layout also feels a little cramped. If you have all the cables plugged in at once, it's a bit of a fumble to get everything seated correctly. They did throw in a 400-lumen flashlight with SOS and strobe modes, which is decent for checking your oil or setting up a campsite in the dark, but it's nothing that's going to replace a dedicated work light. So, is the Gooloo GT6000 still the most powerful jump starter you should consider? Here's the bottom line. For the average driver, this is a solid, budget-friendly Plan B. If you want something that can sit in your trunk for months and still have the guts to start virtually any consumer vehicle on the road, from an economy commuter to a burly pickup, it earns its spot. It's reliable, the cold start tech is a genuine win, and the price-to-performance ratio is hard to beat. However, if you're running a professional shop or managing a fleet of vehicles where you're jumping cars multiple times a day, this isn't a replacement for heavy-duty professional gear. The battery fall-off is more noticeable than the marketing suggests, and the screen visibility issues can be annoying in a high-speed work environment. But for us, for the just-in-case emergency, it's exactly what it needs to be. It's affordable, it's powerful enough for 99% of scenarios, and it keeps you from being stranded. So that's our take on the GT6000. If you're already using one of these in your rig, drop a comment and let us know if your jumpstart numbers match ours or if you're seeing something different. And if you're thinking of grabbing one, check the links in the description for the latest combo deals. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more long-term gear updates. Other than that, we hope you all have a simple day. Peace.